I have to respect a girl's privacy.
Yeah.
I shouldn't touch
Her no-no zones.
her no squares.
What can make you be man enough?
These chicks, they want you to last forever. You can't take this pill. It will make you man enough. For men, it's important to prioritize conversations about sex, about consent and boundaries, right?
Why?
Because
Why only men?
Welcome to Wazzii Squad, a show about perspectives. Today we talk about sex. Are we teaching it right? Are we talking about it enough? What are the cultural perspectives that we have on this? Is social media doing way too much? Please feel free to comment, like, share, subscribe, and welcome to the conversation.
Should conversations about sex be openly discussed within communities and cultures, or should they remain a taboo topic?
I agree with the fact that we should have more open conversations regarding this topic. Let's look a couple of years back. So in the African culture, there used to be certain systems where the elders and the parents and people in the society, certain people in the society were given that task to teach children and convey these messages to young people. But coming down this road, we haven't been able to have these conversations. So I feel like the conversations surrounding sex have been shunned by our society right now. We have been led to now teach ourselves. And where are we teaching ourselves from? We're getting information from the internet, from our peers who don't even have any information about it also. I am agreeing that we should definitely talk about sex more, teach it to children from as young as they can comprehend that it is very important.
You see, the fact that it's being shunned, now people having different expectations, and then you find these people starting to feel bad because they haven't reached the point to where that goal has been set. You can have a certain goal in your mind from your peers wamekwambia this certain thing is supposed to happen during sex. Sasa where you with your partner when that happens and then it doesn't happen the same way that your friend told you it's supposed to happen. So it starts becoming a problem. So you start feeling like you're not man enough or woman enough to express yourself in that certain sex.
I hear you guys, but I choose to disagree because I feel like we are talking about sex a bit too much to some extent, right? In social media, we have seen influencers come and, post about sex toys and shops that are selling sex toys to the public because there are younger followers who are following these influencers, for example, right? So it's becoming, there's no age limit for the conversation to be had because we can't say that every conversation that is being had is for 18 and above only. So it's a conversation that is too open.
And to add on top of that, I chose to disagree because one thing we have learned, especially over the last couple of years with social media, is that not all information is good information. Misinformation spreads twice as fast as the truth, in the sense of when it comes to a topic such as sex, something that has always been seen as taboo for so long. Right now, when you allow everybody to have that conversation in whatever context, a lot of misinformation is spread. Like in a lot of men's spaces, they try to sell Viagra and these pills and these creams to make you bigger and larger, And it's because all of a sudden, these are conversations that everybody's allowed to have, I'm learning a lot because I would hate to be unfair because, two things can be true at the same time, Being forced to think about it from the devil's advocate's perspective, it's pushing me to look at it from a very inclusive angle, and it's a bit uncomfortable, but I'm learning a lot.
Maybe sometimes there might be a little bit more misinformation, but that is why we need to reinforce media literacy because media is here to stay. And also, I think social media has come up with a way that there are parental controls. You don't expect to start teaching children about sex and sex education when they are 18 and above. It doesn't make sense.
I disagree that this conversation should be openly out there. It should be done in very specific spaces because you're saying about parental controls. I have a younger sister and I know at her age, I wasn't that conversant with technology as she is. So I know there are things that she can access now that I wasn't able to access at that age because it's so out there, right? And that to me doesn't sit right with me because I don't want her to indulge in that type of content at her age right now.
But isn't that why the sex is supposed to be more open, so that you learn about it, you get to understand like what can make you be man enough, what in quotes
Your role.
Yeah, your role
Your role
basically.
as a woman.
You
Your role
learn
as a
about it. That's why it should be more open. Kila mtu ajue kuihusu. I think that Rick is just repeating his answer over and over because he's just basically agreeing. I don't even understand why he's on the disagreeing side.
Having those conversations in the wrong context only spreads the misinformation that exists.
Yeah.
It only goes to spread even more negative stereotypes. Even those ads for those pills for men, like the Viagra. These chicks, they want you to last forever. You come take this pill. It will make you man enough. It's posted in a way of reminding you of your deficiency so that they can sell you things. And it's not just pills for men. Right now, everything is over-sexualized, even ads for toothpaste, because the topic of sex, the topic of sexualizing something brings eyes and attention to it,
In the US, children in middle school are taught about sex education. Growing up, they are able to understand that I have to take care of myself. Me as a boy, I have to respect a girl's privacy.
Yeah.
I shouldn't touch
Her no-no zones.
her no squares. I should be respectful. Growing up without this information, it makes you curious, very curious. So you're curious without guidance. You don't know where to start from.
So let me add, we are talking about this conversation as if we're assuming everyone is having sex. Not everyone is having sex. So there are people who, we get them in a space where people are talking about, sex this, you should do this in the bedroom, this and this. There are people who are not viable to contribute in that conversation, and their boundaries are being crossed because this is not a space where they want to be. They're choosing not
they
to
didn't consent to
Yeah,
conversation.
and they're not choosing to find ads on their. You're scrolling through your phone, or this is an ad for something that is sex related, and this person is not sexually active, for example. I decided to be on the other opposition side because I feel like we're not talking about how openly we're talking about sex and the negative effects it has. I know I am very conversant with sex topics and I want to talk about it with my peers and let that information be there for everyone, but at the same time you want to show that there's also a negative impact to it.
Is modern sex education effectively meeting the needs of individuals, or does it require significant reform?
I agree that modern sex education is meeting requirements because right now, if you want that information, it's out there. You can seek it in the sense that, there are so many things going on in terms of this girl effect happening. There's all these things are accessible to young people. Leave alone that. When it comes to reproductive health care, the resources are out there. But at the end of the day, I feel like a lot of people don't take the responsibility in terms of being curious about these things, asking about these things.
I don't think that there is a sexual education system, particularly in this country. There is no particular structure that you can say this is a sex education structure in school systems, in other spaces where you would expect that there is that sensitization of sex as a concept to younger people and even to older people, because even in companies, if it's not for the HR office that is going to be like, oh, now you're being accused because of this and this and this, you haven't gone through that sensitization, you haven't gone through that education before, which is something that should be implemented in this country specifically.
Sex education, it's not only just about sex. There is a lot entailed in sex education. There is the mental aspect of it. As a society, are we catering to the mental state of our young children, our youth, even older people? Are we catering to their mental health when you talk about sex? So I feel there is more that we could do that has not yet been done. I don't know, maybe because of culture or where we come from, the society as a whole, but I feel like there is a lot has to be done.
men and women experience sex differently. So the kind of conversation around sex for those two, it's different. You know, for instance, for men, it's important to prioritize conversations about sex, about consent and boundaries, right?
Why?
Because
Why only men?
Why men? Because we are the ones who do the harm.
That's the stereotype. You're
That's
telling me,
true.
wait, you're telling me you haven't heard of scenarios where women
Are the ones taking
raping
men?
Yeah, that's true. But listen,
Men.
understand, out of every 10 cases, 9 is men are the perpetrators, you know. And these are conversations that are important to men because we are socialized to look at sex in terms of conquering.
Do you both feel that there are situations where women are over-sexualized and they don't also know what consent is, or they don't really grasp the knowledge regarding consent? Do you feel that like that happens and they are not even part of the statistics?
Women, yes, are very sexualized in this day and age, which kind of supports my point, because why are women being sexualized? Because sex is something that is being talked about way too much. So it's like, oh, this body, I can sexualize it because I've seen that, you know, thicker babes are better.
Do you think that if we talked more
About it.
about sex generally, that women will feel more confident in
More
themselves,
empowered.
more empowered to say no?
I am definitely enjoying the debate you're having about sex education, everything on matters sex. However, there's a point where Rick, I am a little bit confused. I don't understand why he will say things like men should be taught more on consent. I feel personally it's a very cultural, a very archaic kind of perspective to have.
Let's talk about religion for a minute, because there are religious practices where sex is not something that you should practice before marriage, right? And these people are in societies where sex is being monetized here, sex is being talked about here, correct information and also misinformation. So these people are feeling like a minority group. They're feeling discriminated from society because they are choosing to stick to this particular norm and everyone else is just choosing to do the opposite. Is there something wrong with them? And they're going to be influenced to do something that they really don't want to because of influence.
And that is why we are advocating that this information should be shared to people from as young as they are. It will give them confidence. It will give them the strength to say no. And if you're religious, you'll just hold yourself. But this information is very important. You cannot discredit them from having that information just because,
Religion.
they are very religious.
How many of our peers are going to gynecologists and actually getting the right information about what's happening in their body and actually coming and feeding off that information in the correct way? It's just about looking online, home remedies. I have this, let's say a yeast infection, for example, that comes from, there's a part of it that can come from sexual activity, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, I want to go to a gyna. See, people online are talking about home remedies to use so that they can clear out the yeast infection. You end up getting worse infections, you end up getting even sick, you can get fatal from it.
Isn't the whole shit about that information being taught, everyone being more open about sex? Because if we weren't more open about sex, mtu angejua aje ako na UTI, si ameenda akagoogle akajua from that information. They have learned and known about it through the information they have learned.
But have you Googled a headache and then you told you have cancer? Like in the sense of, not everything you Google comes with a diagnosis that's appropriate. In the sense of,
it's true.
Misinformation, you have to understand, it's a blank, it works both ways.
We understand
And that's
that
what we're saying,
misinformation
it's not a
in
good
it.
thing. Yeah.
We haven't disagreed on misinformation. To me, accept that there is. But we don't say that misinformation happens all the time. Information, let's say, unaweza Google that you have cancer, and then you find out you're having the wrong symptoms, so it's not cancer, it's something else. Sexual education should actually be more out there, in that there should be more reforms concerning the sex ed. We should actually consider more people in it.
What we are advocating for is a redirection. We are educating these people from a very young age that, this is where this and these spaces are where you get information. For example, Wazzii, Wazzii.ke. They have spaces, they have created systems where young people from very young ages can access information regarding their sexual health, mental health issues.
You're telling me that information won't be helpful or resourceful to them?
You go Google something that you have a symptom of, right? Do you know how Google works? The thing that pops up most is not the most factual. And by the way, getting a website, anybody can create one, right? And I say this because we are able to sit down and say, but this is not a credible source, it's not a credible source, you get? But there's a lot of people who, they fill up these medical spaces on the internet because they're trying to sell you things, you get? How is somebody supposed to be able to say, this stream is good for you, this stream is bad for you?
And that is why we are advocating.
We are
also,
exposing too many.
as much as we are doing sex education, we are also doing media literacy.
Let me give you this context, right? In rural spaces, where, let's say, technology is not as fast-paced as it is here in urban areas, you can find peers talking about different sexual experiences, but without any factual information. Like, they're just, this person went and they did it, and they are coming to spread that information to their peers. And if this person in those areas are going to their peers and starting to talk about, oh, I did this and this and this, these people are going to be curious, even the underage children, because if I'm sitting down in a setup where my homie is 11 years, my other homie is 18 years, me, I'm 20 years, and we're sitting down to talk about this one topic that we have made very open and very okay to discuss even in public spaces, what is going to make this 11-year-old not want to experience the same thing?
And to echo her sentiment, you have to understand one thing, right? The reason why we have conversations in some certain spaces and certain contexts is because the human brain does not develop all at once. You get? So you're giving somebody contextual information where they'll not be able to make sense of it until they're old enough. You get? Yes, the child understands this. There's a thing called pregnancy. But do they understand what that entails? You get? So the information needs to be put into context, given in the right space at the right age. Otherwise, it just becomes something that it's
Also, what
That's
he's saying
what she said.
Hi, my name is Pololette, but my friends do call me Polo, and I'm here to bring perspective to the conversation. I feel like hatuwezi control what people do. Kama, for example, social media advertise vitu sexually. We can't control that. But again, tunaweza control the information yenye tunapatia young ones about sex. Ni kama chakula. Ukianza hii conversation in a safer way, like ikuwe now ni a safe space between you and your child, itakuwa very easy for them kuku-approach wakiwa na any issues. Ama wakiwa na question about, maybe let's say it's about sex and they don't understand. Watakuja like, can I talk to you about this? Iko hivi na hivi. So I feel like it's good, ikuwe advertised, and like I encourage it. Sizi disagree. And I'd say that the sex education in a meet need, but effectively, no. It's not effective. Kwa sababu now umetupatia condoms, you're not telling us hizi condoms tunatumiaje. You're not telling us hata ukitumia condom unaweza pata magonjwa, unaweza kuwa pregnant. Unaambiwa kama utaki kupata pregnant after now having sex, tumia pitu. Unaenda unakula kama njugu. You don't know, ujui ni nini to happen. Yeah, so about sex education iko broad. See about sex peke yake. Kuna relationships, kuna this perspective of body. Kuna hii part ya they don't tell, apart from kutuambia that kuna male and female, and female wanakaa hivi, male hawatuambia that kuna difference. Unaweza grow up bubi yako ikiwa sage, and that's okay. Na as much as pia kuna organizations, si kila mtu anajua hizi organizations. Ni very few people wanajua. I feel like education inafaa kuwa broad.